Admiral Kethvar watched through the tactical display as his fleet's war beasts descended upon the human colony of New Terra. The massive creatures, each the size of a starship, had been bred for millennia by the Zephyrian Empire specifically for planetary assault. Their crystalline hides could deflect most energy weapons. Their plasma breath could melt through reinforced structures, and their pack-hunting instincts made them devastatingly effective against scattered defenders. The humans will surrender within the cycle, Kethvar declared to his bridge crew. No species has ever withstood the void drakes for more than a few rotations. The Admiral had reason for confidence. Across 17 different worlds, 32 distinct alien civilizations had crumbled before the drakes. The beasts were the pinnacle of biological warfare. Engineered predators that could survive in the vacuum of space, navigate by instinct, and reduce entire cities to ash within hours. On New Terra's surface, the colonists scattered as the first wave of void drakes began their descent. The creatures' roars echoed across the landscape as they unleashed torrents of superheated plasma, reducing the outer defensive installations to molten slag. But something was wrong. "Admiral?" His communications officer called out, her voice tight with confusion. "The humans, they're not fleeing toward the evacuation zones." Kethvar frowned. "What do you mean?" "They're moving toward something called Rally Point Fenrir. Our translation matrices are having difficulty with the term." Through the tactical feed, Kethvar watched as the human colonists, instead of scattering in terror, began forming organized groups and moving with purpose toward the planet's northern continent. More disturbing still, they seemed excited. The first sign that this assault wouldn't proceed like the others came when a pack of 6 void drakes cornered a group of human families near what appeared to be a massive compound. The beasts prepared to unleash their plasma breath when the compound's gates opened. What emerged made Admiral Kethvar's blood freeze in his veins. The creatures that bounded out were roughly the size of the void drakes, but where the drakes were crystalline and ethereal, these were all muscle, fang, and barely contained fury. Their black fur rippled over frames that seemed to defy physics, too much power packed into forms that moved with impossible grace. What are those?" whispered his tactical officer. The lead human, an elderly woman with graying hair, cupped her hands around her mouth and shouted something that the translation matrix rendered as, "Boys! Dinner time!" The creatures, all 12 of them, turned their massive heads toward the void drakes and began what could only be described as excited tail-wagging. The battle that followed was less a fight than a demonstration. The void drakes, apex predators of 17 different worlds, found themselves outmatched by what appeared to be domesticated animals. The human creatures moved with pack coordination that made the drakes' hunting patterns look clumsy. When the drakes breathed plasma, the human beasts simply leaped aside with reflexes that should have been impossible for creatures their size, then closed distance with terrifying speed. Within minutes, 6 void drakes lay defeated, and the human pack animals were receiving enthusiastic praise and treats from the colonists. "Run scan protocols on those creatures," Kethvar ordered, his voice hoarse. "I want to know what we're dealing with." The results made no sense. According to his ship's databases, the creatures were genetically descended from something the humans called Canis lupus, a predator from their homeworld. But the readings showed impossible muscle density, reflexes that operated faster than most species' nervous systems could process, and bone structures that could withstand direct plasma hits. "Admiral," his xenobiologist reported, "according to human data streams, these are called dogs. They appear to be companions." "Companions?" Kethvar's voice cracked. "Those are companions?" More packs were being released across the planet's surface. Some were smaller, barely the size of fighter craft, but moved in coordinated swarms that overwhelmed individual drakes through sheer numbers and tenacity. Others were even larger than the first group, massive creatures that the humans apparently called Great Danes and Mastiffs, though the translation matrices were clearly struggling with the terminology. But it was the variety that truly unnerved the Admiral. Where the Zephyrian Empire had spent millennia perfecting a single type of war beast, the humans seemed to have dozens of different variants. Small, quick ones that darted between the drake's legs and attacked vulnerable joints. Medium ones that worked in perfect coordination to bring down larger prey. Massive ones that could go toe-to-toe with a void drake and win. "Sir," his communications officer called out. We're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a middle-aged human male wearing what appeared to be farming clothes. Behind him, one of the massive black creatures sat panting happily, its tongue lolling out despite having just torn apart a void drake. "This is Governor Martinez of New Terra Colony," the human said calmly. "I wanted to thank you for the exercise. Our boys haven't had a good workout in months." "Exercise?" Kethavar sputtered. "Your crystal lizards were pretty tough," Martinez continued, scratching behind his creature's ears. The beast's tail wagged, creating small sonic booms. "Rex here really enjoyed himself." "Didn't you, boy?" The creature barked once, a sound that registered on the ship's sensors as a localized seismic event. Now, Martinez's tone shifted slightly, becoming less conversational and more businesslike. "I'm going to assume this was some kind of misunderstanding. Maybe you thought we were defenseless because we're a farming colony. Easy mistake to make." Behind the governor, more humans were arriving with their creatures. Kethavar counted at least 30 different variants, from small ones that could probably fit in his palm, to absolutely massive specimens that dwarfed even the largest void drakes. "Here's what's going to happen," Martinez continued. "You're going to recall any of your crystal lizards that are still breathing, and you're going to leave. In return, we won't let our boys follow you home." One of the smaller creatures near the governor's feet made a sound that the translation matrix rendered as woof. Somehow, that single syllable carried more menace than the roars of a dozen void drakes. "Our boys are very good at tracking," Martinez explained, as if reading Kethavar's thoughts. "And they get very protective of their family." Admiral Kethavar looked at his tactical display. Of the 47 void drakes he'd deployed, 31 were down and the rest were in full retreat. His ship's sensors showed energy signatures consistent with hundreds more of the human creatures still in containment around the planet. "Helm," he said quietly, "prepare for jump to hyperspace." As the Zephyrian fleet began its retreat, Governor Martinez's voice followed them. "Oh, and Admiral, you might want to update your databases. Humans don't just tame monsters." The transmission cut off as the human lifted one of the smaller creatures, apparently called a puppy, into his arms. The tiny beast yapped once, and Kethavar's sensors registered enough kinetic force to punch through his ship's secondary hull. "We make family out of them," came Martinez's final words as the fleet jumped away. Admiral Kethavar would later file a report recommending that human space be designated as off-limits to all Zephyrian military operations. In his private notes, he added a single observation that would puzzle xenobiologists for generations. The humans have turned evolution itself into a willing collaborator. Approach with extreme caution, or better yet, don't approach at all.